Do you know that we have 700 years of previous history that led up to that time? Because up until the time of Muhammad, it wasn't corrupted, right?
No. Well, I get the way how it's written. Yeah, I don't think it's because if there's a corruption, I don't think that it would be written like that.
You got it. You got it. Exactly, bro. And I appreciate the logical stance that you're standing on. It is logical to say that. Did you know that in chapter 61, verse 14 of the Quran, it says that Allah is going to give the upper hand to the believers of Jesus over the disbelievers of Israel?
Sorry, can you tell me which chapter, please?
Yeah, of course. Chapter 61, verse 14. I'll pull it up for you and I'll read it.
Brother, can I answer that question?
Just a moment, please.
Chapter 61, verse.
Chapter 61, verse 14. So it's Asaf, Arbasa, 14. And I'll read it for you as you pull it up. Let me know when you're there.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. It says, O believers, stand up for Allah. As Jesus, son of Mary, asked the disciples, who will stand up with me for Allah? The disciples replied, we will stand up for Allah. Then a group from the children of Israel believed, while another disbelieved. So there were how many groups? Two groups, believers and unbelievers of Israel, right?
So you said, you just to not to cut you off, but you said chapter 61,
verse 14 of the Quran.
61 verse. So that's Surat Asaf. I'm not mistaken. Okay.
Ayat 14.
Okay. Let
me read it again. It says, O believers, stand up for Allah. As Jesus, son of Mary, asked the disciples, who will stand up with me for Allah? The disciples replied, we will stand up for Allah. Then a group from the children of Israel believed, while another disbelieved. We then supported the believers against their enemies, so they prevailed. So who did Allah support out of the children of Israel, out of the two groups of Israel, believers and unbelievers? Who did he support, obviously?
Yeah, he followed the followers of son of Mary, Isa.
Okay, so he supported the believers of the children of Israel, believing in the Injil, the message, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and Allah supported them, right? Okay. Now, up until the 7th century, up until the time of Muhammad, we have the correct Injil, right? As you already stated, as we agree?
Yes.
Okay. Is there anything in the previous, from the 1st century and on, forget the Hebrew, the Tanakh, the Old Testament, because we can prove all of our doctrines, Christian doctrines, without using the New Testament. We don't need the New Testament to prove any of our doctrines. Every one of our doctrines can be proven through just using the Jewish scriptures. But that aside for a minute, what was the dominating message from the 1st century up until the 7th century, until afterwards it got corrupted? What was the dominating Christian message?
Oh, you tell me.
But I'm going to rely on your logic, because you've been honest this whole time, and I trust you're going to be honest now. Even though it may disagree with your theology, at least you're going to be honest, because you've been honest this whole time. So I want to grant you that, please.
Okay, so you said that the most dominant message from the first...
The dominant message from the 1st century up until the time of Muhammad. What was the dominating message? Would you agree that it would be the death, burial, and resurrection of Jesus Christ, the God-man?
Would it be, sorry?
The death, burial, and resurrection of Jesus Christ, the God-man.
Yeah, if I have to say, from the dead, what we believe is that that he they thought that he was crucified the way that they say that he was, but he was lifted up, and we believe that he's coming back. So
I understand what you believe, but what I'm saying is this: if the Injil was not corrupted during the time of Muhammad, and if we have 7 previous centuries leading up to Muhammad, all bearing witness, both secular and non, to the testimony of the death, burial, resurrection of Jesus Christ, By the way, did you know archaeology has discovered a stone, right, that they excavated recently within the past 50 years or so, that it had a man on a cross with a donkey's head and a man worshiping him, because they're mocking Christians, right, that we worship the crucified Christ. It's a mockery towards Christians. But notice the archaeology, notice the history. It bears witness to what? The worship of the God-man who died for Christians in the 1st century. So if Allah truly helped the believers over the unbelievers, then it was Allah who helped prevail Christianity and had us believe the death, burial, resurrection. Therefore, what you have in the Quran today is absent from what history has us to believe, which then would prove that the Islamic chain is broken as long as you don't stand on the hill of the Psalms, of the Torah, or of the Injil. Your chain is broken. You have nothing to stand on if we were just to judge by your Quran and Quran only. If we were just to go by the Quran. Because I brought up chapter 7, verse 157 and chapter 61, verse 14, in order to highlight the fact that apart from history, archaeology, the actual Injil that was written down, and Allah bearing witness that he helped the believers of Jesus over the unbelievers prevail, and chapter 3, verse 55 says, until the day of resurrection, it goes to show that you have a dilemma in your Quran, because now what do? If you believe the Quran to be true, then you have to abandon the Quran and come to what was originally revealed, what we say the original Quran. But I don't want to divert into that.
No problem. But what would you do you find that there's a prophecy that is directed to Muhammad from the Torah and the Injil?
Besides, it's a very good question. It's a very.
You have to be very, very honest when it comes to a prophecy of somebody coming from a specific site and from a specific I would say branch of descendants which come from Ishmael. The mountain of Selah. Who does that refer to?
I knew he was going to Isaiah 42.
No, but it's if you knew, it's good, because I think because you're also thinking of me saying it to you, because there is something of it, no? If you have to be honest.
Yeah. No, I understand, man. So you bring up a good objection, a very good objection. Do you believe that the sons and daughters of Kedar will be slaves to Israel?
Do I believe to what we're talking about to today, or
just enslaved to Israel? Not today, according to prophecy, because you're quoting Isaiah 42, verse 1 through 4, which is quoted, by the way, about Jesus in Matthew 12, 17 to 21. But what do you do with Isaiah chapter 60, verse 6, where it says the sons of Kedar will be slaves to Israel? You believe that as a prophecy?
Well, again, I was not speaking about that specifically.
Okay. Well, no, I understand, but notice, if you go to Isaiah, you got to take the totality of Isaiah, because we have a full scroll of Isaiah called the Great Isaiah Scroll that's in a museum in Jerusalem. I think it's circulating now around the U.S. unless it's back in Jerusalem. That's about 15 to 17 feet long, and it reads virtually identical to what we have, and it dates back 100 to 300 BC, and it virtually reads identical to what we have today in our Isaiah, in the book of Isaiah. So now the question is this: if you believe it's about your prophet Muhammad, then let's be consistent with the rest of the totality of what Isaiah says. And in Isaiah chapter 21, it also speaks about Kedar being completely destroyed and wiped out.
Okay, I'll dig in middle into that. But if I have to just, when the verse that I showed out to you, 14, I think it was 42:12, if I'm not mistaken. What do you think about that prophecy? What do you think, if you would have to give your honest, leaf on it? What would you think it is? Who's that?
I would read it in context, and I would recognize the fact that the sons of Kedar, right, are going to rejoice. Why? Because the body of the Messiah, who's spoken of in Isaiah 42, 1 through 4, the body will then go to Arabia, the way Galatians chapter 1, verse 17 and 18, Paul says he disappeared in Arabia for 3 years. In Acts chapter 2, verse 11, on the day of Pentecost, one of the languages that the apostles spoke, the disciples spoke, was Arabic in Acts chapter 2, verse 11. So it only makes sense that the body of Christ was spread around the world, including Arabia, and good news will come to them.
Okay, so you don't believe that we're talking about Prophet Muhammad there?
No, sir.
No. Okay, so
Not,
you don't
not,
find
not contextually and not in the totality of what Isaiah is teaching. Because if you start reading, you read verse 12, right?
yes.
Okay. Have you read 1 through 6?
1 to 6, no. I'm looking at it right now.
Okay. You want to read it real quick?
You can go ahead because I think you have more, an explanation and definition to it. I would like that's what I would like to know from you because you seem very knowledgeable on what you're saying, right?
Let me read it for you. Yeah. Okay. So it says, "Behold, my servant, whom I uphold, my elect one, in whom my soul delights. I have put my spirit upon him. He will bring forth justice to the Gentiles." So this is God, Yahweh speaking, Jehovah speaking. He's saying, I will put my spirit upon my servant, in whom my soul delights, right?
Yeah.
Okay, let me just cross-reference this with Matthew 3:16 for just a moment, and I'll come right back to this. Matthew 3:16. When he had been baptized, Jesus came up immediately from the water, and behold, the heavens were opened to him, and he saw the Spirit of God descending like a dove, alighting upon him. And suddenly a voice came from heaven saying, "This is my beloved Son, in whom I am well pleased." But if that's not enough for you, let me go to the Targums, a website called Safaria. This is a Jewish website, anti-Christian website. In Isaiah chapter 42, verse 1, in the Targum of Jonathan, okay, as it gives me a minute to load up. Just give me a second. Let's see, maybe a little, Okay, here we go. Beautiful. Isaiah 42. All right, I'm going to pull up the Targum for you. Okay, and here's what the Jewish interpretation in the Aramaic, which is a paraphrase of the Hebrew scriptures, would say. "Behold my servant, the Messiah, whom I bring, my chosen, in whom I delight. As for my word, I will put my Holy Spirit upon him. He shall reveal my judgments unto the nations." But moreover, one last thing I want you to consider. Isaiah identifies the Father, Yahweh, as the eternal Father in Isaiah 63, verse 16, number 1. Number 2, the servant, whether it's the nation of Israel who's under judgment or the servant, the Messiah, the name is always Israel. Do you believe Muhammad's name is Israel?
Of course, we know it's not the case.
Exactly. But this servant's name is Israel. And I will ask anyone to show me where in the book of Isaiah that the servant's name is anything else but Israel.
But can you show it to me in Isaiah?
Yes, sir. Isaiah. Okay. Let me finish reading for you then. Okay, watch this. I like the way you think. "Behold my servant whom I uphold, my elect one, in whom my soul delights. I have put my spirit upon him. He will bring forth justice to the Gentiles. He will not cry out, nor raise his voice, nor cause his voice to be heard in the street. A bruised reed he will not break, and a smoking flax he will not quench. He will bring forth justice for truth. He will not fail, nor be discouraged, till he has established justice in the earth, and the coastlands shall wait for his law." And in the Hebrew is the Torah. And that's why we Christians say we're not under the Torah of Moses, we're under the Torah of Jesus Christ. We adhere to his laws. We're not a people without law, but we adhere to his law, the Jeremiah 31 to 35 law. But now watch this. Thus says God, the Lord, who created the heavens and stretched them out, who spread forth the earth and that which comes from it, who gives breath to the people on it and spirit to those who walk on it. I, Yahweh, have called you in righteousness, the servant, and will hold your hand. I will keep you and give you as a covenant to the people, as a light to the Gentiles. Muhammad was never given as a covenant to the people, but the Messiah was. Even in Isaiah, in and of itself, like Isaiah 52 verse 15, it says that he will sprinkle many nations. How? With his blood. With his blood. But notice though, I will keep you and give you as a covenant to the people, as a light to the Gentiles. If there's any controversy regarding this, whether you're Jew or a Muslim, especially Christian, obviously, Isaiah chapter 11, verse 10, across the board would say it's about the Messiah. It says, in that day, there shall be a root of Jesse and will stand as a banner to the people, for the Gentiles shall seek him, and his resting place shall be glorious. Lo and behold, Paul quotes this in Romans 15, verse 10, that the Gentiles shall hope for him. What does Matthew quote? Now watch this. Matthew chapter 12, 17 to 21. Remember, you said that the Injil existed prior to the time of Muhammad. Well, here is Matthew 12, 17 to 21. And here's what it says. That it might be fulfilled, which was spoken by Isaiah the prophet, saying, behold, my servant whom I have chosen, my beloved in whom my soul is well pleased. I will put my spirit upon him. He will declare justice to the Gentiles. He will not quarrel nor cry out, nor will anyone hear his voice in the streets. A bruised reed he will not break, and a smoking flax he will not quench, till he sends forth justice to victory. And in his name, Gentiles will trust. Not in the name of Muhammad. If anything, it would be the name of Allah. But here it says, in his name, in the servant's name, the Gentiles will trust. And lo and behold, what do we have? Because you asked, where does the servant's name called Israel? Excellent question. Isaiah 49, 1 through 6. Isaiah 49. And just stop me or cut me off if I'm going too fast.
Like I said, I'm listening. I'm here. It's all about knowledge, man. I just need to gather as much as I
appreciate that, man. I appreciate that humbleness, bro. You know, you humble me, man. May God open your eyes to see the truth and the beauty of the true majesty of who Messiah is, right? And it says, Isaiah 49, 1 and on, listen, O coastlands, to me, and take heed, you peoples from afar. Yahweh has called me from the womb. From the matrix of my mother, he has made mention of my name. And he has made my mouth like a sharp sword. In the shadow of his hand, he has hidden me and made me a polished shaft. In his quiver, quiver is where you hold arrows, right? Because what do? You take an arrow out, boom, and you're ready to shoot them, right? In the shadow of his hand, he has hidden me and made me a polished shaft. In his quiver, he has hidden me. And he, Jehovah, Yahweh, said to me, you are my servants, O Israel, in whom I will be glorified. Then I said, I have labored in vain. I have spent my strength for nothing and in vain. Yet surely my just reward is with Jehovah and my work with my God. Notice, the Messiah is communicating back to the Father, back to God here, in order to show that there's a pre-existence to the Messiah as a person, right? And who but Jesus's ministry what felt like it was labored in vain. But then Jesus also recognized, I have spent my strength for nothing and in vain. Yet, surely my just reward is with Yahweh and my work with my God. And now, Yahweh says, who formed me from the womb to be his servant, to bring Jacob back to him so that Israel is gathered to him. Whoa, Israel, the Messiah, is going to gather Israel, the nation? You better believe it. So that Israel is gathered to him. For I shall be glorious in the eyes of Yahweh, and my God shall be my strength. Indeed, he, Yahweh, the Father, says, it's too small of a thing that you should be my servant to raise up the tribes of Jacob and to restore the preserved ones of Israel. I will give you as a light to the Gentiles, that you should be my salvation to the ends of the earth. But wait a minute. You shall be my salvation to the ends of the earth. I will also give you a light to the Gentiles. Well, that makes perfect sense, because in Isaiah 42, verse 6, I, Yahweh, have called you in righteousness and will hold your hand. I will keep you and give you as a covenant to the people, as a light to the Gentiles. To do what? To open blind eyes. Wait a minute. That's Surah chapter 5, verse 110, and Surah chapter 3, verse 49, that Jesus, with the permission of Allah, opened the blind eyes. To bring out prisoners from their prison, and to those who sit in darkness from the prison house. Now watch this, going back to what we read in Isaiah 49, we read verse 6. Look at what verse 8 says. Thus says Yahweh, in an acceptable time I have heard you, and in the day of salvation I have helped you. I will preserve you and give you as a covenant to the people, to restore the earth and to cause them to inherit the desolate heritages. Wait a minute. Here we go again in Isaiah 49. He's going to give the servant, whose name is Israel, a covenant to the people. But how is this possible? I need 2 more minutes and I'll land. How can the servant be given as a covenant to the people? Because if I remember correctly, in Exodus chapter 24, verse 8, in Exodus chapter 24, verse 8, when Moses made a covenant with Israel as the mediator, notice what he does. And Moses took the blood and sprinkled it on the people and said, this is the blood of the covenant which Yahweh has made with you according to all these words. Moses, being a type of the one to come, sprinkles the blood upon the children of Israel in order to make a covenant with them. The greater Moses, in Isaiah 52, 13 to Isaiah 53, verse 12, says this. Isaiah, and I'll land it with this and I'm done. Now listen carefully to this, brother, please. Isaiah 52, 13, to remember there's no chapter or verse divisions. They were added in 1551 to 1555. So in Isaiah 52, 13 and on, it says, behold my servant. Who's the servant? Limp?
You said it was Israel. You're talking about Israel.
You got it. But guess how the Jews render this verse? In the Targum of Jonathan, on their website. Behold my servant, the Messiah. God is my witness. I'm not lying to you, bro. So they render it as the Messiah. They recognize it as the Messiah, right? The Jewish Johnny-come-lately Jews, after Rashi, right, said it was about the nation of Israel. But we can easily refute them. That's why we refute Jews daily when they come up to us or on Clubhouse, right? But with that being said, so here's what it says. Now tell me who this sounds like. Behold, my servant shall deal prudently. He shall be exalted and extolled and be very high. Just as many as were astonished at you, so his visage was marred. His visage was marred more than any man, and his form more than the sons of men. So shall he sprinkle many nations, not one nation. Moses sprinkled one nation, but a prophet like me, who's greater than me, will sprinkle many nations. How? So shall he sprinkle many nations. Kings shall shut their mouths at him, for what had not been told them, they shall see, and what they had not heard, they shall consider. But who has believed our report? And to whom has the arm of the Lord been revealed? For he shall grow up before him. He shall grow up before him as a tender plant and as a root out of dry ground. Wait a minute. Can a root grow out of dry ground?
No.
No. But remember in Isaiah chapter 7, verse 14, it says, therefore the Lord himself will give you a sign. Behold, the virgin shall conceive and bear a son. Jesus, the root in barren ground, in a virgin womb, in virgin soil. Right? Already Isaiah prepared you for this. So now
Yeah.
For he shall grow up before him as a tender plant and as a root out of dry ground. He has no form or comeliness, and when we see him, there's no beauty that we should desire. In other words, he doesn't come arrayed in purple and purple clothing and a crown, but he comes looking like a regular flesh and blood Jew, a son of a carpenter, adopted son of a carpenter. He looks like one of us, no more, no less. He looks normal on the outside, but his inside is filled with beauty and majesty, right? He is despised and rejected by men, a man of sorrows and acquainted with grief. And we hid as were all of our faces from him. He was despised and we did not esteem him. Surely he bore our griefs and carried our sorrows. Yet we esteemed him stricken, smitten by God, and afflicted. But he was wounded for our transgressions. He was bruised for our iniquities. The chastisement for our peace was upon him, and by his stripes we are healed. And we, like sheep, have all gone astray. We have turned everyone to his own way, and Yahweh has laid on him the sins, the iniquity of us all. He was oppressed and he was afflicted, yet he opened not his mouth. He was led as a lamb to the slaughter, and as a sheep before shears is silent, so he opened not his mouth. He was taken from prison and from judgment, and who will declare his generation? For he was cut off from the land of the living, unalived from the land of the living, for the transgressions, for the sins, the transgressions of my people, he was stricken. And they made his grave with the wicked, but with the rich at his death, because he had done no violence, nor was any deceit in his mouth. Yet it pleased Yahweh to bruise him. He has put him to grief. When you make his soul, the Messiah's soul, an offering for sin, he shall see seed, he shall prolong days, and the pleasure of Yahweh shall prosper in his hand. It sounds like Isaiah 49. He has labored in vain. He shall see the labor of his soul and be satisfied. How? By the resurrection. By his knowledge as the perfect high priest, sitting at the right hand of God, who always intercedes on behalf of sinners, sinners that are covered by the blood, the sprinkled blood of Jesus. By his knowledge, by his righteousness, by his righteous servant shall justify. Notice, by his knowledge, my righteous servant shall justify many. For he shall bear their iniquities. Therefore, I will divide him a portion with the great. He shall divide the spoil with the strong, because he, the servant, poured out his soul unto death. He was numbered with the transgressors, and he bore the sin of many and made intercession for the transgressors. This was written 750 years before Jesus was born in the flesh. All right. And we have an Isaiah, the great Isaiah scroll, that reads virtually identical to what we have today, that dates back, liberal scholars dated back to 100 BC, more conservative scholars, 250 to 300 BC. Friend, who does this sound like to you in history?
Well, like I said, there's two things. There's for sure, because it speaks about Jesus.
Wait, just a moment, please.
Yeah. No, go ahead, my friend. We can have,
But look, bro, please, man, just so I didn't labor in vain, because I'm going to pass it on to my brothers here who want to also speak. But I want to talk to you. I want to connect with you one-on-one, brother. Please.
Cool.
Who does this sound like in history? And be honest, bro, before the Lord.
Like I said, everything that you just read, and I was looking at everything that you're saying. I was reading it too. It speaks about Jesus, guarantee.
All I'm going to ask you to do, man, please, man, listen, carefully weigh out the evidence. Contact me privately. Contact Word Night, Amin, Chris Claus, right? Block God Logic. And as long as you do things like that, no, I'm kidding. But no, as long, like, bro, come to us, man. I know this is not an easy platform to make admissions like this. However, I thank God for your honesty, and it shows that you are truly a man who seeks after the truth, even if it flies in his face and he doesn't like it. You know what I mean? May we all have hearts like that. And that's all I have to say, bro. So our conversation will do one of two things. It'll either harden your heart in the future, or it'll humble your heart to believe and receive, and therefore be a brother in Christ to us. That's our prayer for you. We love you.
I appreciate it, man. I love you too, brother, and thank you for the sharing, bro, and thank you for just taking the time to give me this explanation and provide me with that. I'm gonna look on my end, and if there's anything, we got back at each other.
You got it, bro. You have a great day, bro, and be in contact with us, man, please.
Yeah, I just added you actually.
Yalla khuni.